All right. Okay, I see more folks are coming into the chat. I just want to say hello and welcome again for those of you that are just now coming in. Please make sure that you mute yourselves when you're coming into the session here so we don't hear everything that's going on. Please feel free to drop your name, pronouns, and where you are tuning in from, and anything else that you want us to know about you in the chat. What organization, if you're representing a school, what school are you representing? If you're an educator, if you're a concerned parent, if you're a legislator, please drop it in there so we can know who's here. We're going to get started. I think we're okay to do so. Looks like we have a number of people on. So, hello, everyone. How y'all feeling? Yes, yes. Can I see? I need to see some emojis. I need a responsive. Show me that you're alive. Oh, there we go. Some emojis, some hand claps, some hearts. You're alive. Thank God you're alive. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Arlisa Hurd, and I am with 42 Forward, which is an education organizing network, and we are coalition members with the Michigan Education Justice Coalition. We're one of the partners. And I just want to let everybody know that you have picked the right session today, right? First, I just need to let you know that I am a mom, I'm an organizer, and that we want to welcome you to Opt Out Michigan. This is the voucher public information session, and tonight we are hoping to demystify and take some of the questions out of what's currently being proposed. We believe that it is nothing more than a voucher scheme, and it's trying to sneak back into Michigan in the back door in a very sneaky way. So we want to make sure that we give you the information you need about these vouchers and what's at stake in Michigan if Michigan does not opt out. We want to make sure that you understand the steps we can take to keep Michigan a voucher-free state and protect our public education for every child. Now, before we get started, though, MEJC, which is the Michigan Education Justice Coalition, brought us together tonight, and Rochelle is going to tell us a little bit more about what MEJC does. Okay, Rochelle, go ahead.
Thanks, Sarah Lisa. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rochelle Crowhercher, and I use she, her pronouns. I am joining you from Shelby Township, which is in northern Macomb County, and I am a mom of two kiddos, and I have the privilege of working with this great team at the Michigan Education Justice Coalition. We are a statewide coalition of over 40 community organizations and of school labor representatives dedicated to organizing and advocating for Michigan public schools. We envision a healthy and healing schooling system for our state that is anti-racist, inclusive, and fully and equitably funded, no matter what a child's zip code is. And so we have great partners with us this evening. I see Arlisa and Molly from 482 Forward. Um, Michigan Parents for Schools is in the house, Student Advocacy Center. These are all great coalition members that I have the privilege of working with. And I also want to thank you all for joining us this evening. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and find out what we're talking about with this one big beautiful bill voucher scheme. Tonight we're gonna start with Alexandra Stamp, and she is from the Michigan League for Public Policy, who's going to give us an overview about the nuts and bolts of this voucher scheme and what's currently being proposed and how it will impact students in Michigan. So thanks, Alex, and take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm EJC. My name is Alexandra Stam, and I'm the Education Policy Analyst at the Michigan League for Public Policy. I am so excited that we have such a full room tonight. I did not expect such awesome attendance, so this is very exciting. I also just want to give a shout out to all the educators in the room. I'm a former teacher, and so I'm thrilled to be kind of talking to my people. So welcome. Before we get started, I do just want to give a little bit of information about the Michigan League for Public Policy. We are a nonpartisan policy center that uses data, community, and advocacy to fight for policies for Michiganders who have been historically left out of prosperity. We're also home to the Annie E. Casey Foundation's Kids Count data. So if you guys are interested in any other sort of public policy, the Michigan League for Public Policy is a great resource. I always tell people that before I worked at the league, I was a big fan of the league, and I still am. So I only have a few minutes to cover quite a bit of ground, so please know that there is more that I could share, but I'm going to do my best to cover all of the main points and provide resources in the chat as I go. Yes, I will be sharing slides with our host tonight so that everyone has access to everything that I'm talking about, so don't feel like you need to rush to write things down. Also, I am always happy to chat offline or after this webinar, so please know that I want to be a resource for all of you, and you are welcome to hit me up after the call. We can go 2 slides. Thank you. All right, so the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and what we know so far about this voucher program. So housed within OBA is something called like the Education Choice for Children Act, which is the first federal program intended to funnel taxpayer dollars into private schools. It is structured as a tax credit scholarship program, but it's a voucher scheme that allows taxpayers to claim up to $1,700 annually for donations made to qualifying scholarship granting organizations. And I have all of this information in a chart on the next slide that I'll share, so it will become a little bit clearer as I go, I hope. So taxpayers can donate $1,700 a year to these SGOs, and then these SGOs distribute scholarships to families to spend on school tuition and other educational expenses. It's important to know these SGOs can also keep up to 10% of taxpayer donations. This program, as written in law, does not have an expiration date. It does not have a revenue cap. So it means that the government is going to be forced to spend unlimited amounts of taxpayer dollars on private and religious schools for an unlimited amount of time. The Joint Committee on Taxation has estimated that over 10 years, this program will add $26 billion to our federal deficit. According to OBA, states can opt in or out of this voucher program via a decision by the governor. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's a little kind of visual for how this works. So if you take a look at the person in the middle, they donate $1,700 to an SGO, so the scholarship granting organization, and in turn, they get $1,700 back on their taxes. This is huge. There is not another program like this that is so generous. Typically, when people make donations to nonprofits, they get like a small return on this. They get a small tax credit back. A dollar for dollar return is much more than anything that we've seen before in law. So after they donate this $1,700 or up to it, these SGOs collect a bunch of money and then they are able to give it to families who are earning up to 3 times the area income for scholarships to spend at primarily private and religious schools. And if you are interested in seeing, and Susan, if it's helpful, I can just put it in the chat really quick. If you're interested in seeing who would be eligible for this program, like what kind of a family makes up to 3 times the area income, Ed Choice did a really awesome job of creating a map where you can look at every county and see how much money a family of 4 would be earning to be eligible. So for example, if we were in Kent County in Michigan, families earning up to $320,000 a year would be eligible to receive a scholarship. If you are interested in just kind of how vouchers work, generally speaking, I do have a school funding 101 series, and I do have a voucher 101 that I created before this program became law, and I put a link to that in the chat as well. All right, so this is kind of generally how it works. And as you can see, the states are really left out, and it's a dotted line because we're not totally sure what the role of the states will be, because as you can see from the next slide that you were on time. That was good, slide person. As you can see, we don't know everything about this yet because the full rules from the U.S. Department of Treasury have not been released. So we should have draft rules for the program released soon. The latest that I heard was August. Once they are released, citizens have 60 days to make some public comment, and then official rules will be released sometime in the fall. So Governor Whitmer has said that she is going to wait for the full official rules before making her decision about whether or not to opt in. There are a lot of questions that Treasury needs to answer about state control and accountability of this program. People are rightfully anxious to talk about the impacts of this program. Because we don't have all of the rules yet, I'm going to turn to talking about state voucher programs because that's the information that we have at the moment. So, although the federal program will be different in that it won't impact state budgets in the same way that a state voucher program would, we can still look to other states to guide our thinking about what's truly at stake when considering an opt in. I also have a fact sheet that was released by the US Department of Education about this program. So, just know the source is from the federal government, but it is still helpful to know what's written in the law. All right, so for the kind of lessons that we know that school vouchers are based in racism. Racism was the driving force behind the creation of our very first school vouchers. After the Brown versus Board of Education decision, white folks in the South were looking for ways to use taxpayer dollars at private schools for white students. They were looking for ways to resegregate schools. And as you can see in this timeline, Southern states use these vouchers to increase enrollment in private schools for white students to segregate their education. The courts eventually struck down many explicitly segregationist voucher schemes, but this underlying idea that public money can be redirected to private education outside of public accountability survived. And we see the continuation of this school segregation in voucher states today. So North Carolina is a voucher state that actually has some really robust data collection systems. Not all voucher states do, so sometimes it's kind of hard to know exactly what's going on. And what we can see out of North Carolina is that private schools are disproportionately white when we look at their county demographics. So in certain counties, 30% of the private schools private schools may be up to 30% more white than the county's overall demographics. And conversely, some public schools are disproportionately Black when you compare to the county's demographics. So we see these racist origins continuing in these school voucher schemes today. So aside from that very problematic reality, we do have other warnings about the impacts of vouchers from states who have implemented a statewide voucher program. So like most voucher states, Wisconsin is a cautionary tale about this slippery slope and expansion of voucher programs once they're adopted. Wisconsin's voucher program was so costly that it caused public school spending to freeze over a decade. What we often see in these voucher states is that they'll start very small and they'll say, oh, we're just going to impact, or we're only going to give vouchers to a certain sect of students. So we're only going to give them to students who are living in like high poverty areas or in certain schools labeled as like a turnaround district or something like that. Or we're only going to give vouchers to students who maybe need some sort of special education services. But in every state who starts a voucher program, it just snowballs into eventually being an entire universal voucher program. And that's exactly what happened in Wisconsin. And it was so costly that public school spending just froze for over a decade because they were spending state money on doling out vouchers. Arizona's expansion was so big that it just blew a hole in their state budget. They had to freeze infrastructure projects. And including like their water replacement, they had to just stop it because the voucher program just expanded way too fast. A talking point from voucher advocates is that this federal program can be redirected to use at public or private schools. However, Arizona is an example that, yeah, you might be able to do that, but that's not how this plays out in reality. In Arizona, $34 million from vouchers went to public schools, while $238 million went to private schools. Like other states, New Hampshire reminds us that most students who use taxpayer vouchers were already attending private schools, making this just another scheme to subsidize the rich. And Florida reminds us that there are some huge accountability and transparency problems associated with vouchers, as we saw voucher dollars in Florida being used to pay for educational purposes like Disney park tickets, kayaks, and televisions. So when we look at Michigan specifically, we have we have a lot of school choice in our state already. So this idea that vouchers can help provide more choice to families is just really not the case for our state. Vouchers are not helpful for families with low incomes. Vouchers do not typically cover the full cost of private school tuition. And a lot of times what we see, like in Iowa, is that when a voucher covers a certain amount of money, private schools just increase tuition at that rate in order to kind of gatekeep the, hey, Iowa, to kind of gatekeep their same student population. So their low-income families are not able to just write a $1,700 check and then wait for that money to come back in a year. So this just isn't something that low-income families are going to be able to, or most families in this economy can comfortably afford. Private schools don't provide the same civil rights protections for students receiving special education services or students who identify as LGBTQ+. So vouchers are just not helpful for those students. These students need the protections that our public schools offer. Importantly, students in rural areas won't benefit from vouchers in Michigan because they don't have another school choice. The public school is the only choice in many of these places. 13 of our 56 counties do not even have a private school option in Michigan. Importantly, we don't want vouchers. I saw someone in the chat say, didn't we vote these down recently? Yes, we did. We voted them down by a huge margin in Michigan in 2000. And it is very important and interesting to know that a voucher program has never, ever, ever, ever been approved at a ballot box across the country. Anytime a state voucher program has been approved, it's been in a special session by the legislature or when a part-time legislature calls some sort of a special session. So this is not something that's popular across the nation or in Michigan especially. Our stance at the Michigan League for Public Policy is that we should join our Midwest states of Minnesota and Wisconsin and opt out of this federal voucher program. And you can go to the next slide. It is not a coincidence that at the same time that this voucher scheme is being pushed, the federal government has proposed cutting education funding by $7.3 billion. This is not a program set up for public schools to take advantage of scholarships being donated to SGOs. This is a program.
I like my little way.
Donna,
But,
Donna,
you know, sometimes we have to. I'm having aches and pains, but
somebody mute Donna. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right. So this is not a program that's set up for public schools to just like take advantage of some scholarships being donated to SGOs. This is a program that's based in racist origins, and it's aligned to do exactly what Project 2025 laid out. It's designed to destabilize our public schools and push private and religious education for Americans who can already and are already affording and making that choice. While we recognize that the rules from Treasury are still to be seen, we advocate for strong investment in our public schools and for students who need it the most. Think of what can be done with all of that tax money that's going to be given to people as tax credits. We could just use that money to invest in our schools now. So I'm going to put a couple other things in the chat for you. The first is where this image on the slide comes from. It's the stakes are high piece, and it includes my previous slide that had the map of Michigan, and you can actually hover over every county in Michigan and see the number of private schools that each county has and the number of secular private schools in each county, which are kind of few and far between, especially if you're out of the Metro Detroit area. I'm also going to pop in a fact sheet from the Ed Law Center. I saw someone from New Jersey from the Ed Law Center in the chat. So thank you so much for all of your very helpful information. I'm sure that you saw I reference you guys in your helpful info a lot. So again, if I can be of any more help explaining this kind of complicated scheme to people, please let me know. I will try to moderate the chat and answer some questions for you over there. But first, I would like to introduce one of my friends and a parent from the school district I was blessed to teach in, Rachel Gross, who is going to talk about the importance that our public schools play in our communities. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much for introducing me, and thank you to the Michigan Education Justice Coalition for having me tonight. I'm so excited to be here and with all of you. My name is Rachel Gross, as she mentioned. I'm a I've been a nurse for 30 years, a mom of 4 adult children, and I'm waiting to add any second now a grandma. So I'm waiting, like literally any minute, I'm going to hear the news. So but I'm incredibly happy to be here with advocates from across Michigan. I know so many of you on this webinar have done the hard work in your hometowns, making those phone calls, writing postcards, talking with neighbors, and collecting signatures for the Invest Michigan, Invest MI Kids petition. Your dedication is exactly what keeps public education strong. I'm joining you tonight as a parent, a longtime community advocate, and a registered nurse with 30 years of experience. And throughout my nursing career, advocacy has always been one of my greatest passions. Whether advocating for patients, families, or communities, I have learned that the best decisions are grounded in evidence, facts, and commitment to doing what is the best interest of those that we serve and as community members. The same evidence-based approach guides me in my personal life when evaluating policies like this voucher program. I ask the same questions that I ask in healthcare. What does the evidence show? Who benefits? What are the long-term consequences? And does it improve outcomes for the people we are trying to help? This is one of the reasons I appreciate the work of MEJ and what Alex is bringing. They have done the research and invested the time to understand the real world impact of school vouchers on Michigan students, families, and communities. Tonight, I would like to share why that evidence matters to me as both a parent and a community advocate, especially in a rural area. I was not just invited as someone who is a policy expert, but as a parent who has experienced both private and public education firsthand. I myself attended a private Catholic school from first grade through 12th grade. And when my oldest children reached school age, my husband and I chose that same path for them. So they both attended, the two oldest one attended private school, the same one I did, until 3rd and 5th grade before transitioning to our local schools, while my younger two children started right off in public school from the beginning. So I feel like I have a very unique experience with those, with how I attended and my kids did as well. Over the years, I became deeply involved in our schools. I served on the PTO, supported our athletic programs, worked with Alex, attended school board meetings, and advocated for students, teachers, and families. Through these experiences, I gained a firsthand understanding of both the educational systems, the private and the public. Because of those experiences, I want to be very clear. I believe parents should have the freedom to choose the education that is best for their children and their family. But my concern is not with parental choice. My concern is with using public taxpayer dollars to fund private education. I know the value that private schools can provide, and I know why families choose them, but I also know that public schools serve a unique purpose that no other institution can fulfill. They are accountable to taxpayers, they're required to educate every child who walks through their doors, and they serve as the economic and social foundation for communities across Michigan. Ultimately, I watched all 4 of my children thrive in our public schools, and that experience taught me a truth that shapes my perspective today. Public schools are not simply another option on the menu. They are the cornerstone of strong communities and an essential investment in our collective future. When we talk about school vouchers, the conversation often forgets how local economies actually function, especially in rural communities. In many towns across Michigan, the public school district isn't just a place for children go to learn. It is often one of the largest employers in the community. Our neighbors serve as teachers, bus drivers, cafeteria staff, coaches, custodians, and administrators. When a public school spends money, it contracts with local businesses, purchases supplies and services, and supports families who in turn support the local economy. If a student leaves a public school using a voucher, the school loses funding, yet the fixed costs remain. The building still needs heat, the buses still need to run, the lights still need to stay on. A school cannot eliminate 1/10 of a teacher or 1/10 of a bus route. When voucher programs divert public dollars away from public schools, the impact extends beyond the classroom. You are not just simply reducing funding for a school, you are weakening one of the most important institutions supporting the economic stability and long-term vitality of many Michigan communities. In rural areas especially, those consequences ripple throughout the entire community. As Alex mentioned before, choice is a misnomer in rural communities and pretty much everywhere. Private schools are few and far between in our areas. They don't provide special education services, the transportation challenges that bar access for families, and the list goes on. And to end, I just want to talk about common myths and realities, because many of us and you having these conversations in your communities, I want to highlight a few common arguments and the realities behind them. The first one that I tend to hear a lot is vouchers provide choice without harming public schools. And we kind of discussed this already. The reality is that Michigan's school funding system does not work that way. When funding leaves one student, schools lose revenue immediately, but they cannot instantly reduce their operating costs. So that's something that you might want to remind people. And at the same time, public schools have limited ability to replace those lost dollars locally. The financial impact is real. In Michigan, public schools cannot simply ask local homeowners to make up those lost operating dollars. Voucher programs drain funding while leaving schools with many of the same expenses and responsibilities. The result is fewer resources available for students who remain. The second argument, one of my favorites, not really my favorite. Why should my tax dollars support public schools if my child attends a private school? Get that one all the time in my hometown. And the answer is the same reason that all of us support public infrastructure. We pay for roads that we never might drive on. We support the fire department, even if our homes never catch on fire. We invest in public services because they strengthen our community. Public schools do exactly that. They help create an educated workforce, support stable property values, strengthen local economies, and provide opportunities that benefit every resident, regardless of whether they currently have children in the school system. Finally, some argue that private schools simply provide the same service as public schools. And I think we've already discussed this too. The reality is that public schools have responsibilities that private schools do not. And those are very important. Public schools are required to welcome and educate every child who walks through their doors, including students with disabilities, students who need additional support, and students from every background, every walk of life. Private schools can and do establish admission criteria and may reject a student's enrollment based on academic performance, behavioral history, special education needs, religious requirements. They can say whatever they want. Public schools do not have that option. They are accountable to the public and they are responsible to serve every child. So that distinction matters because public funds should remain focused on institutions that are accountable to the public and committed to serving all students. Public funds belong in public schools, period. As a nurse, a parent, and an advocate, I believe public policy should be guided by evidence and what best serves our communities. I think we've presented the evidence well here tonight. And the evidence tells us that strong public schools strengthen communities, support local economies, and create opportunities for future generations. Don't be fooled. Voucher programs may sound appealing on the surface. I don't even think they sound appealing on the surface. But the long-term consequences for public education and for many Michigan communities are way too significant to ignore. This is why I'm grateful for the work being done by the Michigan Education Justice Coalition and by all of you. Thank you for your commitment to Michigan students, educators, families, and communities. And together, I think we can ensure that every child has access to a strong public education and that public resources remain invested in the public institutions that serve us all. Thank you so much.
Woo, 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 woo. Okay.
That was a lot.
that was a lot. That was good information. Y'all give some energy, some emojis. How you feeling to hear about that? Listening to Alex and the slides, kind of laying it out for us what some of the rules are, at least what we know so far. And then that 300% of area median income. Did you get that? We need that for all of the programs that families need to qualify for. How come we can't use 300% of area median income for homeowners to fix their houses? Why do you have? Okay, all right, don't get me started. Thank you so much, Rachel, because Rachel laid it out. We need to be asking ourselves that one question: who benefits? Who benefits with this? I guarantee you that will answer it all for you. Who's going to benefit? And then those folks that want to parse up their tax dollars. Why should my tax dollars go to public schools? We need to tell them people that they should just get what they pay for. Tell them to stop paying for their ambulance services or the fire department. So when they have that heart attack, oh, you didn't pay. So you gotta get there the best way you can, right? Oh my goodness, don't get me started. Whew, this was a lot. Guys, thank you. I think we have coming up. Is Terrence in the house? Terrence Martin?
I am here.
Woo,
Good evening.
Terrence Martin. So wait a minute. Let me properly introduce you, sir. Guys, we have next. Terrence Martin is the president of AFT Michigan. Um, he's the big dog in the house, right? But we love Terrence. And Terrence is going to talk to us a little bit about how these vouchers would definitely impact our schools in real time. So, Terrence, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Arlisa, and thank you all for joining this call this evening. As Arlisa stated, my name is Terrence Martin. I'm president of AFT Michigan, former president of the Detroit Federation of Teachers, and longtime educator in Detroit public schools. I taught second and fifth grade on the east side of the city. My son went through Detroit public schools. And so obviously I invested in what happens to public education in this state. I think it's important to sort of ground us in this conversation by saying this, that public education is more than just a government program. It's a promise. It's a promise that no matter who you are, where you live, what your family earns, what language you speak, what challenges you face, you deserve the opportunity to learn, grow, and succeed. As AFT Michigan president, I have the pleasure of representing the nearly 40,000 educators, school employees, and healthcare workers across this state. So every day I see teachers, I see paraprofessionals, I see bus drivers, I see counselors and food service folks, support staff. Their hearts are into serving Michigan's children. But I also see something else. I see educators being asked to do more with less. I see rising expectations, growing student needs, larger workloads, increased pressure, large class size, inadequate funding, salaries that don't keep pace with the cost of living. And now instead of investing in our neighborhoods and public schools, some politicians want to do even more, diverting public resources by instituting this voucher scheme that only benefits private interests at the expense of our communities. So let's call it what it is. This is not school choice. This is taxpayer funded privatization. Public schools open their doors to every child, every single child. Private schools do not have that obligation. They can decide who they admit, they can decide who they serve. They are not held to the same standards of transparency, of accountability, of public oversight. Michigan voters understand that the reality is when they reject vouchers not once, but twice. Twice, the people of this state said public dollars belong to public education. Yet, here we are again. And we should also be honest about the history behind voucher programs. Across America, vouchers were first used as a tool to resist school integration and create separate educational systems. Today, while the language may have changed, scholarships, and things of that nature, the outcome remains troubling by far. When public money leaves public schools, segregation grows. Communities become more divided by race, by income, and by ability. The schools with the greatest challenges lose resources, while those already advantaged gain even more of an advantage. This is not progress. This is a step backwards. And nowhere is the danger greater than the students with disabilities. Public schools are legally required to educate every child and provide specialized student services, accommodations, therapy, and support that many students need to thrive. Those services are not cheap, but they are essential. They represent our commitment that every child matters. When funding is pulled away from public schools, those services come under pressure. At the same time, many private schools are not required to provide the same level of support, or in some cases, any support at all. For years, when I worked in Detroit public schools, our educators would service charter, would service non-traditional public schools, would service parochial schools, because we had folks who were trained social workers, school psychologists, counselors to service students in those same areas, right? And they would use our services. So what happens? Students with disabilities are left with fewer options while public schools are left trying to meet greater needs with fewer resources. This is not choice. This is abandonment. And the consequences don't stop there. When schools lose funding, classrooms feel it almost immediately. Teaching positions disappear, class sizes grow, students receive less individualized attention, teachers have less time to help struggling learners and less opportunity for challenging advantaged students. Programs disappear, music programs disappear, art disappears, career and tech education programs disappear. World languages, classes disappear. The very opportunity that inspires students can connect them to school and prepare them for the future careers are often the first to go when budgets are squeezed. And let's be clear about who gets hurt the most. It's not the wealthy communities. It's not the districts with the strongest tax bases. The hardest hit are often the schools servicing working families, rural communities, and neighborhoods that are already facing economic challenges. The students with the greatest needs lose the most. The gaps grow wider, the opportunities become more unequal, and our communities become weaker. That should concern every taxpayer, every parent, every business owner, and every citizen of the state of Michigan. Because strong public schools don't just benefit students, they strengthen neighborhoods, they support local economics, they attract businesses, they increase property values, they create informed citizens and strong communities. Public education is one of the greatest investments we make together as a society. So instead of creating a system that picks winners and losers, Michigan should reject this federal tax credit voucher scheme. Instead of subsidizing privatization, we should invest in public schools. Instead of weakening the institutions that every child, we should strengthen them. Instead of dividing our communities, we should unite around the belief that every child deserves a quality public school. That is the Michigan I believe in. That is the future of our children. And that is the fight we must win together. I'll end with this. This is not just a fight for Michigan. There are other states all across this country who are fighting as well. I happen to be on the executive board for the National AFT, where states like New York and Illinois are facing the same issues. And so we have joined together as a coalition to urge our governors to opt out of this voucher scheme. And so that push is not just going to be heard in places like Detroit and Taylor and Dearborn, but it's also going to be heard in places like Chicago, places like New York, both the city and upstate. And so I just want to let folks know that we are not in this fight alone. There are others across education. There are others across unions, particularly education unions, that are fighting for their Democratic governors to opt out of this scheme. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the group today.
Woo-hoo. All right, let's give it up for Terrence Martin, president of AFT Michigan. I mean, just so many great points, so many things to really think about. Students with the greatest needs will always stand needs lose the most. Students with the greatest needs will lose the most in this voucher scheme. And we need strong public schools because it helps to strengthen our communities. I don't know why, listen, this is just so crazy to me. Instead of collecting all this money from all these taxpayers, if you're going to collect money, why not just fund the schools with the money?
That
Isn't that, I
part.
mean, why can't we just fund the school? Why do we have to go through all of these hoops and loops? And it only is going to benefit just a few. I have my own personal story where my son, we went to Waldorf. Yes, I'm naming them. Okay, I'm naming the thing. We went to a pretty ritzy school here in Detroit because I was like other parents who we were running up against. I just couldn't figure it out. We just couldn't. Nothing was working for him. And in 6 weeks, they kicked us out, right? And you have to understand, though, the background, though. I was a parent, I wasn't working at the time. I was on welfare and I was receiving some of their, they have these financial aid assistance, for the poor people. And I mean, I felt like they wanted my grandmother's blood. They asked me so many questions. I had to provide so much documentation. Well, in 6 weeks, we didn't fit the standard, they told us. And then we had to go. But one of the reasons why is because we were expendable. I was not a paying uh, family. We weren't paying $14,000. We were only contributing our $200 a month, which they didn't need a group like us, or a family like us. But they had other kids in the school who had way more severe issues, but those parents were lawyers and doctors and they were paying full tuition and those kids didn't go anywhere. So if you even think that this voucher, you tell your people, if you even think that this so-called voucher, this money is going to support your baby going to let's see, a Detroit Country Day, forget about it. You're not going. You ain't gonna make it, okay? It's not gonna happen. All right, I just had to get that off of my chest. Well, listen, I think Rochelle is about ready. She is going to get into the racist roots of this thing here. Okay, so hold on to your wig, your caps, your lace fronts, and listen up. Okay, because this thing is gonna blow your mind. And y'all put some emojis in the chat. Let us know that you're alive here. Let's show some expression. All right. Okay, Rochelle, take it away.
So we've heard some folks, thanks, Arlisa. We've heard some folks tonight talk about the racist roots of vouchers, but I just wanted to take some time this evening to underline it so people really understand the connection. I want to make sure that we are very clear about the history of vouchers. The first voucher programs were designed to undermine Brown versus the Board of Education. Okay? 1954 landmark case. Ruby Bridges, we've all seen that picture. That was in the 1960s of Ruby Bridges integrating her school. She is still alive today. Okay. So the first vouchers were designed to undermine Brown versus Board of Education. School districts realized that they can make private schools accessible to white families only, whereas Brown mandated that public schools had to be integrated. So while hundreds of private schools were set up in that time, some cities closed their public school districts altogether. There's a school district in Virginia that closed its doors for 5 years. So they closed the public schools entirely and they created voucher systems so that they could de facto segregate schools. They it's upsetting to think about it. So does that sound familiar? We're going to defund or shut down public schools while providing vouchers or scholarships for students to attend public school or private schools? That sounds familiar, right? Well, it's a defund. The public schools that have to accept everyone and welcome every child. and give these vouchers to schools that can discriminate. Private schools are allowed to exclude students for any reason that they want to: race, gender, disability, the marriage status or sexual orientation of their parents, you name it. We have some things up on this slide here. They're allowed to exclude. They can expel students for any reason. They can discriminate against LGBTQ plus students and their families. They can discriminate due to faith. They can discriminate due to your income. It divides society by race, income, faith, and ability. While our public schools have always been created since 1954 to educate every child. They are required to provide services to students with disabilities and special needs. They cannot discriminate based on faith, and they bring people together. One of my favorite things about our public schools is that there are children there from all walks of life. And to be clear, Michiganders have voted twice, resoundingly, to not allow vouchers in our state, once in 1970 and once again in 2000. And the same tax scholarship program that we are seeing federally, Michiganders declined to sign in 2022 and 2023. So let's think about here what this law is telling us to do. If we create this scholarship program, if we allow it to exist in Michigan, it's going to de facto defund schools and de facto allow students that they want to attend private schools to be able to attend private schools. So let's remember what the roots are. I want to ground us in the idea and understand that vouchers were created in response to Brown versus Board of Education. So now that you're really angry and you are ready to do something, I'm going to introduce you to my colleague, Drew, who's going to tell us what we can do to fight this in Michigan.
Listen, thank you so much, Rochelle. Appreciate it. Yeah, so there's a couple things that we're gonna do tonight. So first off, with this awareness, right? Does everybody feel like they learned something about vouchers tonight?
Yes.
Please say yes. Oh my gosh, thank you. I don't know who just said that, but thank you.
That's
Yes.
Dawn.
Oh, Dawn, you should know.
Well,
Dawn's
this
an
is
expert
Lois,
on
and I
schools.
say yes.
Well, thank you. Okay, I'm glad I'm seeing some thumbs up here. Thank you so much
Yes.
to the presenters tonight for teaching us about vouchers. So this issue does not have enough awareness, which is why we wanted to do this with y'all tonight. So thanks for joining us. We need to spread that around. And so that's going to include sharing these actions with 5 friends after this. But we really need to do here is the governor is essentially in charge of making this decision, right? Governor Whitmer can opt us in or out of the voucher program. The state governor is the one who can make this decision, as we talked about earlier, and they make it once every calendar year. So next year we're going to have a new governor. We want to tell Whitmer or whoever is the governor of this state that Michiganders don't want vouchers here. So there's a couple ways we could do this. We have an action here to tell Whitmer now that we don't want these vouchers. It'll send her the email. But we want to go even further than that. People will listen to us sometimes, but we also want to engage some really important decision makers for our schools in this. So that's why we have sign-ons for school board members and superintendents around this. So in a sec here, we'll go into breakout rooms, but essentially we have a doc. I'm going to screen share. Sorry, I'm like in 2 different things here.
Alex, you had your hand up.
I'll wait till after Drew is done, but I do have one more thing. I'm sorry to take up more of your time.
You're good.
Thanks, Drew.
Doc, we're going to share this out with people. It's essentially this sign-on letter. So we're going to take this and send this to our superintendents across the state. We already wrote a sample email out. You can change it however you please. But if it helps you, take this, copy and paste it over. It includes the link I just showed you, and ask them to sign on. So that one's for superintendents. And then we have the same thing for school board members. It's just a different link, so we can split people up that way. So it's essentially asking them, it tells them all these things that we learned about vouchers tonight, and just saying, hey, this OBBA thing is coming out. We'd really like you to sign on to this letter and stand in opposition. All right. So I have some actually, I started to compile some school board emails in here already. So if you're in a few of these districts, you got lucky. Sorry I couldn't get to everybody. There's 500 districts. But it's an easy Google search. We can help you all out. So we'll split into breakout rooms to do that. Does that make sense to everybody? So we're basically just, you can copy and paste, you can write your own email, and send them the link there to ask them to sign on.
Just to kind of add a little bit of context as to like why this is so important, because we've done such a good job of making this sound like why the hell would anyone opt in? There is a narrative being crafted by people who do want the governor to opt in that can sound appealing. And that narrative is that as taxpayers, we are all opted in because of this federal program in a certain way. I can, as a taxpayer, donate $1,700 to an SGO in a different state if Michigan does not opt in. And so there's this kind of scare tactic that has been percolating that if the governor doesn't opt in, that her taxpayers are going to donate to SGOs that are out of state and other kids are going to benefit from our tax dollars. My response to that would be then just fund our public schools. Then just fund our schools and then it's just like a non-issue. But I do just want to kind of recognize the arguments that are being made on the other side of this, because they are real and they are convincing because we have had Democratic governors opt in.
So sorry to unmute, but you cut out for a while, at least on my end. Can you explain again how it would be that our tax dollars would go to help other states? I don't understand that argument.
So as a taxpayer, I could if we opt out of the program, I could still donate to a scholarship granting organization that is in a state that has opted in if I want that $1,700 tax credit. So let's say I'm really passionate about Montessori education and I find an SGO that's working with Ohio. I could donate to that SGO, who then would give scholarship dollars out to students in Ohio, and I could still get my tax credit here on my federal taxes, even though I'm a Michigan resident. And so that's kind of the scare tactic going around, is that it's going to siphon money out of Michigan, but that it's not worth it. It's just not worth the risk. And I also could see this program punching such a huge hole in the federal deficit that it goes away in a couple of years. But there are, some narratives being spread that scare governors into opting in. Yeah, Kathy. Okay, sorry. I'm done talking.
Very good. Thanks for the context. Appreciate that. Okay. I think we have breakout rooms ready here. They're geographically organized. So if you want to open those up, Susan, and find the one. Obviously, we couldn't cover every single part of the state. But we do have Northern Michigan, Detroit, other parts of Wayne County, like Downriver and Western Wayne County, Washtenaw County, West Michigan, Grand Rapids and Lansing, Oakland and Macomb. Then we have one specifically for school board members, if any school board members are joining us tonight. So find those, sort yourselves into them, and the facilitators will help you out with sending these letters out. And if you want me to move you to a room, if you can't find it, let me know.
I'm not seeing breakout rooms.
On the bottom of your screen, you might have like an ellipses, 3 dots, or you might see like 4 squares that says breakout rooms, one or the other. If you click on that, you should be able to join the room that makes the most sense for you. Am I supposed to be going to Oakland Macomb to facilitate? One of my staff people tell me where I'm going.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same here for me. Which should I go to? This is Sharon.
Oh, you can go to Oakland.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody need me to place you?
Yes,
So
I need to be placed. I'm driving currently.
you're good.
I need
Yeah.
to be
And
placed too.
And
Lord,
I'm
okay.
in mid-Michigan,
Detroit.
Midland.
And
Okay. Give me
I don't see
one sec.
the rooms.
Give me one sec. I will find you. Okay. And Marie, and then
Yeah.
okay.
Lisa
Lois,
Hio.
Detroit.
Lisa Hio's in North Branch, Lapeer County. I don't know where you would want to send me.
Let's go. Millview join or Oakland Macomb group. I know it's not super accurate, but
Hey, this is
cool. Who else?
Sharon Kelsel. I'm in Detroit.
Awesome. Got you.
Renee Daniel. I can go into Detroit or downriver.
Cool. Oh, hey, Renee. We've talked before.
Yeah.
Send you over there. Cool. Thank you. All right. Who else needs a room?
Brandy needs mid-Michigan or Genesee.
Okay. Yeah, let's do this one here.
Thanks, Bill.
Does it look like there's one of us in every room?
I don't know. Can you-
Drew, did you want me in the Lansing one to help in there?
Yeah, I think that could be good. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to sort everybody out and then I can
No,
get to
you're
one.
fine. Oh,
Cool.
thanks.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Put that in quotes.
Is Perry leading yours?
No.
I'm Crystal. I'm like in the Saginaw, if you could put me in a room too. Sorry, I didn't know.
Gotcha. No worries.
No, it popped up and it went away. Okay, there we go.
Hey y'all.
Hey.
I'm Susan. I'm
Hey, Madonna. Where are you located at?
Nobody in the Wayne group.
We wanted to break into breakout
We're
rooms
all
to
by
talk
ourselves.
about a couple of actions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I thought we
Okay.
had.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. I told them we need somebody. Anyways, hi everyone. I'm from Belleville or Van Buren Township. We might as well introduce each other. Unless you're shy. I'm not a leader.
Hi, I'm Essie. I'm from Kalamazoo.
Hi, Nancy from Kalamazoo.
This is the breakout room.
This is the breakout room for supposedly Wayne County and downriver.
Oh no, I live in Kalamazoo, but I'm
Yeah.
here, so I wasn't paying attention. So it's just probably where they put me at.
Oh, okay.
What are
I think
we
if you
talking
go
about?
down, if you go down to the bottom right, you can click the leave. And then when you go back to a join a breakout room, or actually you could just move from here. If you go to your bottom of your screen, click on join breakout room, and you'll see, let's see, you've got Northern Michigan, Detroit, Wayne County, Downriver, Washtenaw, West Michigan, Grand Rapids, and Lansing. That probably would be you. So go to
Yeah,
that.
West Michigan.
Yeah. So can you find the little join breakout room icon?
I'm going under more.
If you, it should be by the more.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah,
Okay,
see, have a great
thanks.
evening.
You too. See you later.
Anyone in here that's supposed to be leading this room? Oh, okay. Wait. It should be in Oakland County though, but I can't participate right now. Okay. The point of breakout rooms was what? I'm trying to work on the side too. So are they giving us some resources and or telling us how to reach out to our school boards? I'm losing all my hair. Well, I'm just going to tell you, I run Belleville Area Friends Indivisible, so I have an activist group here in Van Buren Township, and one of my good friends is actually the school board president, so I'm going to make sure I communicate with her and find out if they're on this, communicating with the, I mean, emails or letters should go out to everybody in our township and telling them to reach out to the governor. So I don't know. If you click on one of the links, they gave all the links that they gave. There's one there that has a great letter that's formatted to send to the governor. So that's an easy one. But you can use that as sort of your talking points for any kind of letters or emails that you want to send to your anybody else. I'm going to hit up my representative as well as my senator Darren Camarelli and my representative Reggie Miller. So I will reach out to them. But if you haven't, it's the link that, let me get this one here. Control C. If I chat in here, does this chat in our group? Messages addressed to meeting group chat will also appear in the meeting group chat and team chat. Control V. What other school districts do we have in here? Does anyone want to unmute? You guys are all eating dinner. Mhm.
Heather.
Welcome back. People are slowly coming in. Oh, we're right on time.
You know, I love it when we can do that.
I'm telling you. But it was good though. I've been watching though. But hey, okay, people are coming back in.
Even without a bell system.
Even without a bell system, we're on time. We're good at pacing ourselves.
On time, on task, and on a mission. That is
We weren't finished.
We're on time, on task, and on a mission. That was Paul Robeson, Malcolm X.
Yes, we had a great conversation. I love
That
the
is so
dialogue.
good. Absolutely. So everybody come on back in here. You all look like y'all look like y'all was talking about some good stuff, huh? Some emojis. Hey, okay, we're on the last lap, y'all. Give us a little bit more energy. Some emojis. All right. We see some hearts and some party hats. All right. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, well, listen, would anybody care to share something about what you all were talking about or discussing in your breakout session? What came up? What do you want us to know? Anybody? Any volunteers?
I would like to volunteer. This is Lois.
Oh, sure.
Because we had a light bulb moment in our group, and we're talking about traditional public school superintendents, and all at once, I forget the name, this young lady came up, what about the charter school superintendents? And that there's over 80 of them in the Detroit area, and that they should also be getting this list because rumors has it they're not really in support of the voucher program. Now I have to say rumor because I hadn't read anything on it. So that was fantastic among the rest. But I think this was food for all of us. If you got a charter school in your area, make sure that's superintendent, because each school, a superintendent in the charter world may only have 3 or 4 schools, and sometimes it's only one school. And that's why you see so many of them. I think they should be informed, and we reach out to them because they are public entities and it's going to affect them too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Miss Lois. Reach out to the charter schools. Okay, this is a way to engage them. Anybody else would like to share what you all talked about in your group? What came up? Something that stood out?
We mentioned the fact that the Constitution will be up for a vote, and we're trying to tell people to vote no on opening the Constitution because the whole voucher issue would be wide open. Then the idea, public money has to go for public schools.
Yes. Very strategic and smart. Yes. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Come on and share that good stuff you all were talking about in your breakout rooms. Yes, Rochelle, I agree. This is a smart and engaged group. I absolutely love it. All right, Steve, come on.
Well, we have a small group, but one of the members who comes from Port Huron made a really interesting point that I hadn't thought about. This could be particularly bad for public schools and also maybe for special education parents because local districts are still going to be responsible for providing services even if a child moves to a private school. And so the local district would lose the per pupil funding. And unless you're getting your expenses fully reimbursed, which most places are not, you're still going to be responsible for trying to deliver those services, but you're going to have to do it someplace else in another school or with a lot of transportation back and forth. So there's some interesting arguments that could be made for why, that special education parents could be educated about how this is actually going to affect their kid, possibly.
Absolutely. On top of everything else. I always say, ain't nobody more mad in the school system than a special ed parent. I got money on that one. I guarantee you they're more upset than anybody in the education, and it's been that way for more than 40 years. I've been pissed for, I've been, how long it's been? I've been mad for 24 years. Okay, my nervous system is shot. Okay, Madonna, you have something. Come on, what were you all talking about in your
Well,
group?
you know what? I'm in an individual group in Van Buren Township or Belleville. And so what I want every one of you to do is find, if you're not already hooked up with an indivisible group, I want you to go to indivisible.org, find your local chapter, reach out to them and say, you need to help us fight this. Okay, this is what we do.
Mm. All
So
right.
have us get all our people together to send. We love to make phone calls. We love to send letters. This is what we've been doing ever since the Orange Man took over the
Oh,
second
see,
time.
I love
So
it since the orange man took over. Let's get everybody together and do it. I love it. Madonna, anybody else? Anybody else? Before we close out, anybody got something to say? Something that came up in your group? Yes,
And
no?
another group that could be contacted, like I'm the president of the local MEA retired in my area, and retirees are really active about fighting for the schools. So contact your local retired group because those people, they know the school system, and a lot of times they know all the ins and outs.
Yes, very good suggestion. Absolutely. And they certainly would, more than likely, most of them really want to be involved in this because they spent their lives in the school system. They're not about to let all that go to waste. Are you kidding? So they're ready to fight. Plus, they got some time on their hands. They can fight too. All right. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? I don't want to overlook anybody. Okay.
I had a book recommendation. I think I put it in the chat, but should try reading Reign of Error. The Hoax of the Privatization Movement and the Danger to America's Public Schools by Diane Ravitch. She was the Assistant Secretary of Education under Bush and I believe worked in Obama, and she is firmly against privatization and vouchers and how much they hurt education. This book is over a decade old though, and it's ringing true. Like, this.
And what is that? And drop that. Oh, I see it. It is Reign of Error, the hoax of the privatization movement and the danger to America's public schools by Diane Ravitch. You can drop it again, but it is in the chat. I tell you, listen, and while you were talking, you got some people were clocking it. Okay. All right. So you are right on, Anne Marie. Okay. Well, if that's all folks that want to speak right now, I guess we can pass it over to you, Rochelle, so we can get us out of here. We're right on time.
Again, we love a right on time group. We love an engaged group. It looks like everyone that's here is fired up. I love to see it. Thank you all so much for joining us. Alex Stam from the Michigan League for Public Policy dropped her email in the chat for folks. We'll also include her slides and the notes from this evening in an email out to everyone, and it'll also include the document that we were going over in the breakout rooms. Did someone raise their hand? If not, okay, thanks. So you are going to get an email from myself or Drew, probably tomorrow, midday, that's going to have all of this information to you. Feel free to reach out to us if you still have questions. If you'd like to link up with some parent groups in your area, we have some fired up parents called People Organizing for Public Schools. These groups are getting off the ground over the summer, and they're going to start doing some amazing things around public education in their local school districts. So please, stay tuned in for more information. Thank you all so much for joining us. And this was a great group. I'm leaving this evening feeling amazing about all of the folks here that care about public education. So thank you so much. Feel free to stay on if you have a question. I'll hang out for a little bit, but other than that, thank you and enjoy your Wednesday night.